Welcome to the PSAV Hive at MPI. The subject we want to talk about is bringing new ideas to fruition, how meeting professionals can implement their innovation. And we're fortunate to have with us Juliette LaMontagne, founder of Breaker, which I believe is a social innovation program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Juliette, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, maybe the best way to start is to ask you about Breaker, just to explain the organization and what your aims are.
Sure. Well, we sometimes call it a design-led social entrepreneurship program, but that's a bit of a mouthful. At its heart, it's about creating innovators out of young people. It's about helping young people to create value in the world around them.
Was that your mission or your passion to do that because you felt they didn't understand innovation or how to bring value around them?
So today, a couple of things. Our system of education is really not serving kids so well. Higher cost of higher education, secondary schools, primary and secondary schools that are beholden to high stakes tests. And it's really not preparing young people with the skills and habits of mind they need to succeed in the 21st century workforce. I mean, this is what employers are telling us, that college grads today are not prepared with the skills and competencies that they need.
Is it because there are and you're the educator, not I, but there are some hard skills in terms of, did you learn your reading, writing, arithmetic? Mm-hmm. And then there's the other skills of, okay, it's one thing to learn all the details, but can you think creatively? Is that what you're
I mean, according to the studies, and I'm thinking here of a McKinsey & Company 2012 study, what these employers are calling for are things like teamwork, ability to communicate and collaborate across networks, agility, adaptability, a bias toward action. And these are things that they're not getting in these test prep heavy kinds of curriculum design that they get in their secondary and post-secondary experiences.
You raise a good point, which is the system is so based on metrics, and forgetting the number of kids who, I heard a statistic today at the meeting, it's 6,000 kids drop out of school a day. Mm-hmm. I think it was a day. Mm-hmm.
Can I add to that? Half of those who go on to college will not complete college at all. 50% will drop out of college.
The fact that they even got out of high school isn't the answer either.
That's right. That's right.
So there are those who don't matriculate fully, mm-hmm. and then there's just the damage done by the system of metrics-based performance.
Right. So even those who have successfully jumped all the hoops and gone to the Ivy League colleges come out feeling ill-equipped.
Is this because we've had a couple of discussions about millennials? Is it unique to a generation, this kind of inability to, it may not be the right word, you'll have to lead me, but inability to innovate or think creatively? Or is it?
I think there's just a disconnect between what we need today in a world that's facing the kinds of economic and environmental and social problems. We need new solutions, right. And this kind of linear thinking and our method of schooling kids is just not serving those ends. That's not the kind of thinking that we need.
And you might say, I can't change the education system, so I'll go to the other end and change the kids, those who I can reach out to. About how many, are they called students or participants do you have in a Breaker in the beginning?
So Breaker is really an early stage venture. We're in our 4th iteration. We just completed our 4th iteration. Each program is unique. It addresses a unique challenge, an industry challenge, brings together a unique group of young people from a range of backgrounds, and works with a different set of collaborators each time. Our most recent project was called The Future of Stuff, and it looked at the manufacturing space, which is such an interesting place to consider.
A manufacturing space?
The manufacturing field, the domain of manufacturing. What is the future of manufacturing? Looking at 3D printing and mass customization and digital fabrication and all of these exciting technological advances, what will be the implications for making stuff in the United States in particular is what we were looking at. But we worked in partnership with the Institute of Design at Stanford to launch this project in different cities concurrently, which was a first for us. So each of our programs has 15 kids on a project, but this last one had a team in New York, in Detroit, and in San Francisco, as well as a global participant, a global team joining us through an online platform. that was a first for us. So we had these different sites all looking at the future of stuff together. Prior to that, the program had just been exclusive to New York City.
You know, what are a few things marketing professionals can do to stimulate innovation? Some tips, some ideas, some thoughts.
You know, whether it's my students, my breakers, students anywhere, professionals anywhere, there are certain habits of mind that one can adopt to try to approach problem solving more creatively and innovatively, leading to more innovative solutions. I guess what I would say is adopting kind of a bias toward action, a level of comfort with ambiguity, and so prototyping, right? So creating a bare bones version of some idea, some notion you have a hypothesis about how something could work or how something might function. So you have to test those assumptions, and building something crude and simple. It could be made of cardboard, it could be a mock-up kind of situation where you and I role play, it could be some kind of a web interface, just to convey that idea and get it out there. It's this bias toward action, this ability to get something out there. So in the breaker model, for example, did I have it all figured out? Did I have, you know, everything fine-tuned and money in the bank to fund it? No, I scrapped the thing together in much the same way. It's kind of a fearlessness, an ability to put perfection aside and put something out there, anything out there, in order to get feedback that's going to be valuable to you in pushing the idea forward and refining it and improving it. And it's that ability to iterate and refine that I think any professional anywhere could benefit from.
I just think of everything you've said being so antithetical to what we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
I mean, ambiguity.
Yeah.
The risk of failure, the risk of producing something incomplete. My gosh, those are all frightening things for people.
It's true. It's true. And we've been trained this way in our schools, right? So one of the principles that we teach the breakers is fail forward, this notion of leaning into the failure, learning from it, looking to it as an opportunity, stands in stark contrast to what they learn in schools.
I'm wondering, from a meeting professional standpoint,
Yeah.
whether breaker is a way to do the same thing differently, or whether breaker is a way to do different things. I'm sure you'll see my difference there. I mean, because it's one thing to say, just be creative, but do the same thing you've always done. It's another thing to say, why are you doing the same thing you've always done? Where is breaker on that, or is it both?
I think it's both. I think it depends on the context and the purpose of whatever that thing is. I can easily imagine how a breaker-like program could attach itself to an event like TED, but I don't assume that all the meeting professionals that you're addressing are putting together events that are about big ideas and innovations. I'm sure that they have more kind of discrete outcomes. So I guess it would be a negotiation of figuring out how this methodology might serve those particular needs. And again, it's the relationship with these corporations and the ability to tap into their challenges that make it, I think, an interesting space to explore.
And how would we, and I recognize breaker is still in its formative stages, but at some point you'll have to send out breaker. What, are you a breaker teacher? Are you a breaker observer? What is your role?
I'm a facilitator.
Breaker facilitator.
Yeah.
So is that teachable? Can we teach teachers to give up control?
Yeah.
Because there is a certain control issue that says, I've always taught math and English in this way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they have to step away.
It's true. It's a big challenge and it's an exciting opportunity. In fact, just this last cycle, the one I was mentioning to you, where we looked at manufacturing, for the first time we invited a group of educators to come and train. And the way we did it, it was to have them shadow the team. So it was a professional development model that, like, you just don't see, where
didn't know what was happening?
They're learning from the kids.
Wow.
You know, they're shadowing, they're following along through the steps, and in some cases going through the process themselves. But that was a really powerful experience, and one that you know, this group that we'd invited in had never had before.
It's fascinating, and I guess as we kind of wind down, Juliette, I guess I would ask you, if you're as successful as I'm sure you will be, what will happen? Will you change? Are you trying to climb the mountain and change the educational system, or?
I would certainly like to see Breaker continue to grow. that doesn't mean that it will remain in its current form. I see that it will continue to evolve. I hope that others will pick up on the model. And so here's the thing, we have for a very long time worked with kind of a lockstep system of education that was one size fits all. And I think we're all very clear on the fact that we can no longer travel that path, that needs to be much more diverse and customized to the needs of a whole range of learners. So I very much hope that a model like Breaker will get adopted and adapted in context-specific ways by people everywhere. That it's not the model, it's just a model, and it will get played out in a million different ways. That would be my hope. I don't need to try to control this thing and make it one single thing. And in that way, I hope that education becomes much more fluid, much more modular. With the growth of the online learning space, we're going to need more face-to-face interactions to complement those high-tech learning engagements. We're going to need hybrids that marry the two. We're going to need more apprenticeship. I think that the future is much more about cobbling together a whole host of opportunities and engagements for young people to learn instead of this lockstep linear one-size-fits-all.
And maybe it's not about education anymore. I mean, education carries with it the connotation of structured tests and reading, writing.
Bureaucracy.
Exactly. Whereas you're talking about
I'm talking about
the spirit
learning.
of learning and innovation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has been terrific and enlightening, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're at the PSAV Hive at MPI. We've been speaking with Juliette LaMontagne, founder of Breaker, a social innovation program. And we've been talking about how meeting professionals can bring innovation to their organization. Thank you for joining us, and do please come back to another episode of The Hive.